Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday once again to you, and welcome to your WWE Raw review for May 10th, 2021. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. We're back up here for the second day in a row. Thank you to everybody that was here last night and hung out with me during our WWE King of the Ring 1996 watch-along. That was a lot of fun to take a look back at that show. More watch-alongs to come. And I wasn't up here on Saturday, of course, because we had bumped the Winged Eagle podcast to a day early, and we did it on Friday night. So here we are. Raw just wrapped up a few minutes ago. It was, but it's the go-home show to WrestleMania Backlash. We have that this coming Sunday. I, of course, will be here live this Sunday immediately following the pay-per-view for a full show review, and we'll talk about it, and we're going to do predictions later on in the week. But tonight, we'll preview the show, take a look at the card once we're done talking about Raw, and where we might be going after Backlash, because as a couple of you, or one of you at least pointed out in the chat a minute ago, we've seen a whole heck of a lot of WrestleMania rematches on TV and coming up here on this pay-per-view, so I think it's time to, after Backlash, to really move on to other things. And that should be the case because the next pay-per-view on the calendar, I believe, will be Money in the Bank. And then we'll be heading into the summer. SummerSlam has got a date now, August 22nd. No location announced yet, but they do have a target date that's good. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to get through this pay-per-view. I'm kind of sick of everything that's going on right now. I'm sick of the storylines and the angles. Somewhat intrigued with SmackDown. I'm looking forward to Roman and Cesaro and stuff, but I don't give a shit about, Drew and Lashley and Strowman together and, really anything else going on either for the most part on Monday Night Raw. Slightly intrigued about what Alexa Bliss has got planned after Backlash. She might have given us a few hints to that tonight on Raw that actually opened the show, and I've got some ideas for her going into the summer as well. But a couple of disappointing things on the show, but overall, when it comes to pay-per-view go-home shows, they ain't what they used to be. Back in the day, man, God, you would be jacked. You would just be salivating at Sunday. 6 full days away, we have to wait until this pay-per-view. I can't wait that long. Now it's like, I could wait a year. I don't even give a shit. So it kind of makes you feel totally differently now compared to the way it used to be. But we'll take a look at it, try to pull out as many positives of this as we can, and I'll get you guys' feedback on the show as well. Let me know. Letter grades, A, B, C, or D, 0 through 10. What did you think? George Morris is here. I know what he thinks. I'll get to you in a minute, George, but good to see you in here as well. Melissa, Complexity, Real American, JJ Leg. We got Maka. We've got Ryan, and we got Divine Ricks with the $4.99 super chat. Thanks, dude. Hey, Greg, it seems like we've been watching WrestleMania rematches every week. And also, what's your favorite Backlash pay-per-view? Mine are 99, 2000, and 2004. 04 was good. I actually remember 04. 99 I remember well. I think 2000, we did a watch-along. Were you here for that, Divine? We did the watch-along for Backlash 2000 a few weeks ago, and I'd probably say 2000 was my favorite, although 99 was pretty good. Because I think 99 had the finish of, that was kind of like when Vince was almost forced to kind of go babyface. I think he kind of didn't help Rock, or help Austin win, but Austin retained the title over The Rock, and then Undertaker, I believe, was in the limo. Where to, Stephanie? Wasn't that the end of Backlash in 99? So that's up there. I don't know. It's probably a tie between those two. I haven't seen 04 in many, many years, but I know it had that great hardcore match with Foley and Orton, and I think they had the triple threat rematch from 20 at that too. Yeah, I actually might have to say 04. Those three are good to me. Now, I did not like Backlash 02 just because I was just disgusted with Hogan coming back and beating Triple H. Pissed me off. Good to see you, Berserker. Deshaun Robinson's here too. Justin Kongalong. Timothy Bates in the house. Dre is here. Quentin Brockington's back. And Timothy Bates, did I get you? I think I did. And it's nice of you to say. Yeah, I told you guys I was going to hold you hostage. I wasn't going to come live until everybody hit the like button. But how can I prove that? George Morris, there you are. Appreciate the $5 from you. Hey, Greg, Raw, 0 out of 10. Every season of Different Strokes is better than WWE. Different Strokes is an awesome show. By the way, Raw on Peacock is missing some episodes from 1997. Interesting. I wonder why. Yeah, I wonder which ones that is. I'm trying to think of some of the controversial shit that went down in 97. Don't know why that is. Maybe it's other reasons. Who knows? And good to see a Big J2 Ungovernable. And I think I got you Short and Rejected Mail. K-Dog's Kennel's back. Good to see you, man. And Mike McGee with the $2. Are they making Randy Orton a face or a tweener? It feels like they're having a hard time deciding that. I kind of like that he's just not babyface overnight. He's still very, apprehensive, and he's tending to reject a lot of this stuff with Riddle, but it's the most entertaining shit on the show right now. And tonight, when they had him attack New Day, that just kind of keeps in line with what we know Randy Orton to be, because earlier on in the day, they announced this big 8-man tag. I'm like, oh, okay, Orton's a face. We can kind of feel that coming. He's warming up to Riddle, you can tell, but the way he kind of RKO'd New Day at the end, just still has those ties to Randy Orton of old. You can't predict him, and he's still going to kind of be doing his own thing. So at least it wasn't like an overnight transformation for him, but like I've said, there is absolutely no way WWE is just going to immediately split Randy Orton and Matt Riddle like next week. If you notice, Randy Orton didn't attack Riddle. So I think they want to see if they can make some money off these RK Bro shirts and shit and let that run for a little while. Eventually, shit's going to happen. And I tell you what, man, if they plan this out properly, this could be an excellent way of maybe even transitioning Riddle into a slightly more serious character as well. Because he's all fun and games. He cracked me the fuck up tonight. And eventually, they'll be on the same page. They will be clicking as a unit for a while, Riddle and Orton. Once Riddle fully warms up to Orton, they get some wins. Maybe they even win the tag team titles or something like that. Kind of a stare down with Omos and Randy Orton tonight. So if you get to that point, then you have the team have some success. WWE can see how they do in terms of being over and some of the merchandise they can sell. And then when it's time to end it, because it will end, you have Randy Orton finally, attack Riddle or whip his ass, and maybe Randy Orton, the vicious viper, is the person to bring out the mean streak and the serious attitude in Riddle. And I've said this, we had a big piece on this on the podcast a few weeks back where I was kind of talking about some of the people who think Riddle's lame and they don't like his segments on Raw. I think they're fucking hilarious, but I do understand that they are kind of making Matt Riddle just a hair more of a goofball than I want him to be. I'm cool with him being a goofball, but it's like I don't want him to tread over a line that brings him into R-Truth category, and because I think he's too tough and too talented for that. So I think if he could be a little bit less R-Truth and have a little bit more RVD in him, because RVD could get pissed when he wanted to, but at the same time, he's kind of laid back, whatever, bro, kind of thing. I think there's got to be a better balance there to where where Riddle, I should say, can still be viewed by the vast majority of the talent and the fans as a really dangerous, capable, legitimate athlete that just happens to be a goofball. You know what I mean? So this might be a way to evolve the Riddle character when it's all said and done. That ain't a bad thing. If they can get Randy Orton to kind of bring that out in him. So we'll see where that all goes. But I think it has potential. It's just a matter of, do we have faith in WWE to not fuck it up? At least it's Randy Orton, and WWE's not going to phone shit in with Randy. So they, Riddle's actually probably in good company. Riddle's probably actually in a good position right now where at least he knows his segments and the shit that he's doing with Randy is going to be taken seriously by management and people in charge because it's Randy Orton. So it actually helps Riddle in a lot of ways. It all depends now on the execution. Unfortunately, there's no fans in the arena to really help gauge how over they really are. That would help if they were out there, that way when those silly little backstage things play on the Tron, how many giggles, how many chuckles you're getting out of the audience who are watching that, and how many of them are booing it or not caring or whatever. So it's hard to gauge that. And as far as I'm concerned, I just think it's hilarious. I just kind of like that Matt Riddle is so they just naively innocent, through all of this. Hey, bro, we were just talking about the tomato stuff from last week, shit like that. I just get a kick out of it because Raw is so bad. And when you're someone like me who's on YouTube or spending most of the time during Raw writing down notes and watching social media, it's a whole lot of just negativity. And it's a whole lot of fans thinking they know more than everybody else. It's a negative. Part of that is WWE's fault because they feed us a lot of shit. But at the same time, it really kind of brings you down. So the fact that I can have something like Riddle and Orton there for me to get a chuckle out of, more Riddle and Orton as far as I'm concerned. Raw is 3 hours long, give me more of this and less of everything else, and I'll be just fine. But we'll talk more about that when we get into the Randy Orton and Riddle stuff. Who we got next before we start getting the results? I want to knock out a couple more supers and then we'll start rolling through Raw. K-Dogs, Kenna, welcome back, man. Good to see you, Kevin. Thanks for the 10 again from you. Would love to see a Bash at the Beach 96 watch-along in a couple weeks. We talked about that last night. The NWO is born, Flair Conan for the U.S. title, Public Enemy versus Nasty Boys in a dog collar match, and so much more. That is on my list. That's the front runner. I also am starting to think that, because last night's watch-along got the least amount of views of any watch-along I've done. So that's a little discouraging. So I'm thinking, as much as I love to watch pay-per-views and would prefer to watch pay-per-views from the 90s. I think my audience is a little too young for that. So I'm thinking, we might have to raise the bar a little bit, start watching shit from like 2005 and on, maybe doing a couple of those, see how those perform. But in 2 weeks, I did mention that I wanted to do a WCW show. So maybe we'll give a crack at Bash at the Beach next, and then after that, maybe I'll do something from the Ruthless Aggression era, maybe even up through the John Cena era. Maybe we'll try something like that just to see how that goes, because I want people to watch these and have a good time. So we'll see. But yeah, Bash at the Beach 96, I'm leaning towards that one. That's likely going to be the one I do in 2 weeks, unless I just have some crazy idea or I change my mind or something. Michael Cuomo, appreciate the $9.99 from you as well. Question from last night: did Bulldog ever beat Shawn? Shawn has beat Bulldog for three of his titles. IC in 92, him and Austin beat him for Owen and the tag titles, and then the European belt later that year. I didn't think about that. How many times Shawn has beat Davey for belts? You can technically add one more in there, sort of. That In Your House, September, I guess 95. Yeah, September 95 it was supposed to be Owen and Yoko defending the tags against Diesel and Shawn. I think Oj was being born, and Owen missed the show. Davey took his place. Now, Owen showed up in that match, actually took the pin. So technically, you could even count that, and technically he beat Davey twice for the tag team titles, once with Steve Austin and then once again with Diesel. But yeah, he beat him for the IC title in 92, right after Wembley, when Bulldog, I think, failed a drug test, and they had to fire him, so they took the belt off of him. And then the Intercontinental title, the European title, excuse me. He's had Davey's number. I don't recall any match where Bulldog beat and pinned Shawn. There might have been a tag. There might have been a DQ. There might have been a random match that I don't remember or something. But yeah, it was all Shawn over Davey. It's kind of fucked up when you think about it. Yeah, and they've wrestled for every championship. They've wrestled for the tags, Intercontinental, European, and World title. That's incredible. Never really thought about that before. But yeah, to the best of my knowledge, there's been no victory there. There might have been a random one here or there, like I said, but definitely nothing on TV or pay-per-view ever with Bulldog beating Shawn. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Letting that one sink in. Ryan, speaking of tomatoes, can we please stop with the rotten tomatoes? I know, like were those tomatoes really rotten? Who wants to throw rotten tomatoes? I wouldn't want to be throwing them, much less being hit with them. Because either way, you're touching rotten fucking tomatoes, you know what I mean? So stupid. And then they did more of it tonight, and who was it? Omos squeezed the tomato. So fucking ridiculous. The only thing that Riddle's the only one that can make the tomatoes interesting, because he talked about bromatoes, and then he's laughing about Randy Orton. The only thing funnier than throwing the bromatoes was hitting Randy, and then the look on Randy's face, and then he's standing behind Riddle. And he's like, "Hey, Randy, we're just talking about you and all the funny tomato stuff from last week." Like, he's so stupidly innocent through all of this. It's he's got. I also compared him a little bit, except he's way more goofy, to Kurt Angle. Because a lot of people who complain about Riddle say, "Oh, nobody's going to take a goofball like that seriously." Well, they took Kurt Angle seriously, and there is a balance there. You can be funny and goofy and still be a badass machine in the ring. And I think they take the goofiness just a touch too far with Riddle. If they just pulled back on it a little bit and made him more of a Kurt Angle with a side of Rob Van Dam, is what I would prefer Riddle to be. And like I said, I think Randy Orton might just be the guy to bring that out of him. Deshaun's back again. Thanks, dude, for 10 more bucks from you. Appreciate that. With Money in the Bank being the next pay-per-view, June 20th, do you plan on doing a couple watch-alongs to mark this year? Also, this year marks 10 years since the Cena Punk at Money in the Bank 2011. Yeah, I definitely, in June, I think we're going to do 2 Money in the Bank watch-alongs at least. I should do the 2011 one. We should do that one. I reviewed it. I did a Patreon live review maybe a year ago. Maybe even 2 now, can't remember when, but a watch-along of that show would be fun. Yeah, I mean, I was going to start thinking about Money in the Banks to do in June anyway. We definitely have to do that one, commemorate the 10 years of that crazy match. That was a wild night. Yeah, put that on the calendar. And I just said I want to do something a little bit more recent. There you go. Money in the Bank 2011. We're going to watch that shit. Thank you, Transferring Heat Podcast. There's another one. He also eliminated Davey Boy last in the Rumble. Beat him for the tags, beat him for the Intercontinental, beat him for the European title, and eliminated him in the Royal Rumble. Damn, did he have something against Davey Boy or something? They were friends as far as I know. But god damn, he just owned Davey Boy Smith. That sucks. That really, really sucks. But anyway, let's get into stuff. Let's get into Raw results. Start blowing through the show here, talking about it. And then at the end of it, we will go through and talk a little bit about WrestleMania Backlash and look at the card, which I think I have 5 matches, something like that, written down as all they have advertised for that as of right now. So anyway, we'll see. Here we go with Monday Night Raw. The show kicked off with a very strange 6-woman tag. And the minute this match was announced and they started making their entrances, I'm like, this isn't going to end right. They're not just going to open Raw with this cold match that nobody gives a shit about and is pointless. The teams are Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Charlotte, taking on Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, and Asuka. So to me, when they were coming out there, I put this on Twitter, I'm like, this is going to be a match that's going to set up a different match. There's going to be a DQ. The ref's going to call for the bell. We're going to go to commercial. We're going to come back and we're going to have a different match. There's just no way we're just going to open with a 6-woman match with the match and a finish, and that's it. It's just a weird way to open Raw. And sure enough, as soon as they get into it for a little bit, the match is interrupted by Alexa Bliss and Lily sitting on the swing set. The Alexa Playground set is set up on the stage there, and they're sitting there, and she actually says that her and Lily are targeting somebody in that match, but they're not going to say who. So when you look at the 6 women there, you're like, that's kind of intriguing. So we go to commercial, we come back, the match continues, actually, so they didn't stop it. Alexa continues to watch up there. Shayna has an issue with her knee. It kind of buckles, and she kind of falls awkwardly in the corner, and Asuka is able to hit the Shining Wizard, and take advantage of that, getting the pin for her team, so the babyfaces win there. After the match, she's attacked by Charlotte. I think Charlotte hits her and attacks some of the babyfaces some more, and Alexa Bliss finds herself laughing at the top of the stage as, Nia Jax and Shayna and Charlotte kind of look at her a little bit confused. So, which one of these women is she targeting? Y'all tell me. When I look at the women in that ring, the only one to me that makes any sense would be Asuka or Charlotte. But, because why the hell would she even give a shit about Dana Brooke or Mandy Rose for that matter? I suppose she could be targeting one of them, maybe as her first victim. But I also think it could be she should be dealing with somebody a little bit larger. Now, I would prefer this to be Charlotte. I don't know if that makes sense since Alexa Bliss, I guess, is a heel or something. I don't know what the fuck she is. It might make more sense for her to target Asuka. But with Asuka, and kind of the language stuff, and issues with Asuka, it might be hard to... Well, she's so facially expressive, though. Asuka would probably be fine. And plus, she would be a really tough person to rattle because she's nuts too. But I think of Alexa playing mind games with people, and I think one of the other women might be more victimized than Asuka, who's just kind of real spazzy anyway or whatever. So I would like Alexa to be targeting Charlotte because this would accomplish a couple of things. Number one, it could get you out of the Backlash match. A lot of fans are worried that Charlotte's going to take the title and all of that. Maybe Alexa can make her presence known in the triple threat, distracting Charlotte or whatever, allowing Rhea Ripley and Asuka to finish the match in the ring. And Alexa kind of costs Charlotte. Maybe not directly, maybe indirectly, maybe a mind game type of thing that was a distraction and allowed even Charlotte maybe to get rolled up. That could be a thing too. I know we hate distraction finishes and distraction roll-ups, but they could do that and have Alexa Bliss come out there and Charlotte's all freaked out and then she gets hit with the, Riptide or, Asuka Lock or whatever and loses. That accomplishes 2 things. Number one, it gets Charlotte out of the title picture, at least for a little while, not forever, but at least for a little while. And it puts her in a meaningful program that's not for the title. Because one of the big issues I have always noticed with the women's division, kind of on both shows, is that their top storylines for the belts are usually okay. Sometimes they're really good, with Sasha and Bayley, and sometimes they're just okay. But generally at the top, they at least kind of have some sort of a story or an issue going between them, sort of. Everything else, there's no underneath feuds. There's no mid-card feuds in the women's division. There's random matches and shit thrown together every couple of weeks and mismatch and copy and paste stuff, but there's no real programs together. And if there is, it's 2 weeks long and it doesn't even last. So this puts Charlotte in something meaningful with Alexa. There can be all sorts of fun being had there, maybe going through the summer with them. And then, Rhea Ripley can take on other challengers, and I think Alexa Bliss is going to be one of those challengers one day too. So it's also possible that Alexa Bliss could just be challenging or targeting Asuka and then she goes after Asuka, and maybe after she beats her, that gives her a title shot. We got to think about Money in the Bank. How many of these women are going to be in the Money in the Bank? Is Alexa going to be in the Money in the Bank? Is Lily going to win that goddamn briefcase? Lots of stuff going on there, but the fact that Alexa does seem to be targeting a woman to have a program with now, that's good. Hopefully it's Charlotte, possibly Asuka. If it's one of the other four, I don't care who it is. Might be fun to watch her. Ooh, actually, I didn't think about that. Could be fun to watch her fuck with Nia Jax again. Just a different tone this time. We'd actually mostly be behind Alexa Bliss, where before it was kind of like the body shaming type of thing. But she could be going after Nia Jax again, possibly. But I think Charlotte would make more sense, and it would put Charlotte, like I said, out of the title picture, which can give the fans a breather from all their anger for just a little bit. We then go backstage to Riddle and the New Day. New Day's there. Riddle scoots up in his scooter, and they're talking about the tomato incidents from last night, the bromatoes, and they're laughing about Randy, getting hit with the bromatoes last week and the look on his face and all that stuff. So as he's, kind of laughing about what happened to Riddle, New Day is like, got a look on their face, and they're like, look behind you. And he's like, what? Is somebody behind me? Is it that creepy doll Lily? Just fucking crack me up. And he goes, oh, hey, Randy, we were just talking about you. And he goes, we were just talking about the tomato stuff from last week. Just the way he delivered that line cracked me up. So Randy Orton is just, still real standoffish there. He doesn't really want to be that tight with these guys, but he's just kind of tolerating it, I suppose, for the time being. We then go to Braun Strowman's locker room. He's approached by MVP. And MVP, this I kind of didn't like in a way, because basically MVP is hinting to Strowman that, he first he feeds him all this bullshit about how Lashley respects him, and, oh, you almost came close to beating me last week, and if anybody's going to beat me for the title, it should be you, not Drew, trying to butter him up. And Strowman's like, this is bullshit, what do you want? And he goes, just saying, Lashley would rather lose the belt to you, so, if for any reason Drew McIntyre were to get, injured tonight, he wouldn't be able to make the Backlash match, and it could be you and Lashley one-on-one. So Strowman is proving Shane McMahon right here, because even though he's skeptical, you feel like he's almost dumb enough to fall for this. But one thing I don't like about it is that I understand that Lashley is a heel and MVP is a heel, totally, but I don't remember Brock Lesnar going around trying to get out of wrestling people. Acting scared of people. MVP is basically on camera saying Lashley's too much of a chicken shit to face Drew McIntyre. He doesn't want him in this match. He'd rather just face you or whatever. And he's trying to get out of it. He's scared of Drew McIntyre is the picture this is painting. And I understand that's what heels do. They try to get advantages. They try to do, dirty things to help retain the title and shit like that. But I never saw, like Brock going around approaching other talent. Maybe he did in storyline. I don't remember any situation, of where he really truly didn't want to wrestle against somebody and was trying to do everything in his power to get out of it. Makes him look like a pussy. So I think Lashley, even though he's a heel, he should be a tougher heel than this. He should be like, yeah, bring it, bitch. I'll fight both of you. I don't care. He can be, I'd rather have him be that way, since he is, very credible. So I don't really like the fact that he's trying not to have to face Drew McIntyre. Just go out there and face him and beat him. What the fuck? That's what champions do. So anyway, they definitely set the stage here for something happening in the main event, because of course it's going to be Strowman and Lashley. I'm sorry, and Lashley and McIntyre, in the main event of the show here later on. So we knew we would see Strowman a bit later. Adam Pearce is backstage next. He's hanging out with Damian Priest. They're approached by The Miz and Johnny Drip Drip, which is hilarious. He's cracking me up. He's got that sweet fanny pack and he pulled his sunglasses out of it. Hilarious. So basically in this segment, they set up a match later on with Damian Priest taking on John Morrison. The winner of this match gets to pick the stipulation for the Miz and Damian Priest match at WrestleMania Backlash on Sunday. So that was all set up here, and we'd be seeing that match later on. And then out of nowhere, right when we cut away from Adam Pearce, boom! Who's staring us right in the face? Jinder Mahal. Finally, Jinder Mahal returns so he can go back to doing what he does best, not being over. He's got a couple of friends with him. He's got his backup, Veer and Shanky. Shanky, for real? So I forgot what their actual names were before when they were in NXT. I can't even remember. But now they're on the main roster. They're going to be backing up Jinder. This is fine. It gives all these guys something to do. I know Jinder's worked a main event match, and he's kind of been cleared and ready to come back for some time, but they haven't used him. And correct me if I'm wrong with this Veer and Shanky. Isn't it one of these guys is the one that tweeted the picture of Keith Lee, right? Like celebrating with the 2 titles. So I know he had some heat for a while there. Now they're on the main roster. And I only remember seeing them like who was managing them? Was it Malcolm Blivens or Robert Stone? I forgot who had these guys in NXT. But that was my only look at them, was the 2 or 3 matches they had there. I didn't realize how big one of these motherfuckers was. Jesus. I don't know which if it's Veer or Shanky, but one of them's huge. The one that had no shirt on. My God, he's enormous. And who was Jinder Mahal going to be taking on in his return match? Jeff the Jobber Hardy. Man, what's going on with him? Just is his contract almost up or something? I mean, what's the point of him even being there at this point? Send him to AEW. So anyway, Jeff, he's going to be taking on Jinder, so you know that Jinder is going to win. This is like his return match to the main roster. He's going to beat Hardy. So Hardy's just been losing every time he's out there, and this match went just the way we thought it would. He wins with the Colossus, and Jinder is back, and now he's got some backup with him. And Jeff Hardy, who knows what's going to be going on with him. After that, we've got Jackson Riker and Elias backstage. They've got tomatoes. So this should be just called Monday Night Tomatoes because everybody seems to be obsessed with tomatoes. Luckily, AJ sporting the brand new goatee. Nice look, AJ. It looks awesome. I'm a goatee guy myself. He tries to reason with these guys and say, enough with the fucking tomatoes, man. We got to focus. We got a big 8-man tag match tonight, and you guys are butt fucking these tomatoes. Omos grabs one of them and squeezes it with his hand. This is going to be our opponent. He squeezes the tomato, and that's that. So then we go to commercial. We come back. And we've got the big 8-man tag. It is Riddle, Orton, Kofi, and Xavier taking on AJ, Omos, Jackson Riker, and Elias. Early in the match, prior to the first commercial break, they do have kind of that little face-off with Randy Orton and Omos. Randy Orton's almost like kind of down on the ground a little bit, but Omos is in the ring. Orton's looking at him, and he slithers out of the ring, and we go to commercial. So almost just by him retreating in a way kind of puts Omos over, which is good. Randy Orton, this is a brand new guy. He's had 2 matches. This is a Viper, a veteran, Hall of Famer, 14-time world champion. He's like, nope, no thanks. I want nothing to do with you. So, that was a big little nod from Randy Orton to try to get this guy over. Would have been cool to see him mix it up a little bit, but if Riddle and Orton are going to be staying together for a while, that's going to be your match. AJ Omos versus RK Bro, excuse me. I'm ready for those RK Bro shirts. So that's coming down the line, and they tease that there, I think, with Randy Orton and Omos. So should be interesting to see how that all plays out down the road. The match ends with Randy Orton hitting an RKO on Elias for the win. Everybody starts celebrating. Of course, Kofi and Xavier and Riddle are happy as can be. Randy Orton just kind of standing there, and then he winds up hitting Xavier Woods with an RKO. Kofi takes exception to that. He gets hit with an RKO, stupid, and Randy Orton stares at Riddle, and Riddle yells at him. He goes, Randy, how are we ever going to have friends if you keep doing this? Which is pretty funny. And then Orton does not hit Riddle with an RKO, and he kind of just leaves and just walks away or whatever. So Riddle, he kind of, it reminded me of a Mentos commercial. Like all Randy Orton would have had to do was turn around to Riddle and show him a pack of Mentos because Riddle's in the ring going, like this, like they would do in some cheesy ass commercial. Is you, Randy Orton? I have to watch you. So that was kind of funny. He's like Ishmael from Kingpin. It's fucking hilarious. So you still have that tie to Randy Orton. Eventually, Randy Orton's going to break. Eventually, something's going to happen in a match. Maybe it takes them winning the actual tag team titles for Orton to accept an embrace from Riddle, or maybe even show a sign of friendship towards Riddle. And of course, Riddle is so, like I said, stupidly naive. He's not going to realize that the last person you want to trust is Randy Orton, and he'll probably wind up biting him in the ass, which, like I said, could lead to a small evolution in the character of Riddle to make him a little bit more serious if he gets burned badly by the Viper. So there's potential here if the writing team cannot stick their heads up their ass. We'll hope for the best on that one. After that, we've got Sonya backstage with Rhea Ripley and Asuka. Now, earlier on, Charlotte approached Sonya. We didn't hear what they talked about, but she was back there, and that was a couple segments before this. So Sonya is back there with the two of them. And of course, there's the triple threat match at Backlash. And she's decided that the two of them are going to face each other tonight in a match. And Rhea's like, all right, I know Charlotte was in here. Who gave you that idea? I think she said. And then Sonya's like, I'm not going to tell you that, which is ridiculous because Sonya shouldn't admit that anybody gave her the idea. So what kind of authority figure is this? You know, when you're a person in charge, you take other people's ideas, make them your own. So she doesn't know how to authoritize at all. So they're both pissed, and Rhea's like, you know what? If that's what Charlotte wants, I'll fight Asuka. And then Asuka's like, I'm ready for Rhea or whatever. So they're ready to rock. They don't even give a shit. So they're heading to the ring to go to their match later on. So double duty for Asuka tonight. Scary moment in this next match. Very scary moment, actually. Sheamus is taking on Humberto Carrillo. They are continuing this issue between them that's been going on, I guess, 3 weeks, maybe 4 now. And we actually have a match this time instead of just a backstage beatdown or whatever. The match does not go for very long before there's a very scary spot on the outside. Sheamus is on the apron on the outside of the ring, and Humberto Carrillo is basically going for a sunset flip powerbomb onto the floor is what's happening there, right? I forgot what the hell the move was now. But anyway, the way he lands, he brings Sheamus over. He lands completely flat on his back. Sheamus lands most of his weight right on top of the abdomen of Humberto Carrillo, and his tailbone and hips just drive into the mat, and there's this thud. And as soon as he hits, he his legs, they stiffen straight out. And we've all seen football injuries and things like that. When guys get paralyzed, that's always what happens. Their body almost just goes stiff like that. And so as soon as I saw that with his legs, I'm like, oh my God. But then he moved. But as he's moving, you can see he looks right at the camera, and he's like calling for help. And the referee's like, come on, get your ass down here. So luckily, he's not, that wasn't a neck issue or anything that actually paralyzed him. But man, he landed right on his tailbone like that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's fractured his pelvis, fractured his tailbone, done some damage to himself because he couldn't move around. He was kind of dragging, the bottom of him there. And ref called for the bell, stopped the match. I don't know if that makes an official decision one way or the other. Clearly not the actual finish of the match here. The ref called for the bell, and they got Humberto Carrillo out of there. So hopefully he's all right. Like I said, the bump looked like it was focused on the hips, pelvis, and tailbone, really landing on that hard with all of Sheamus's 275 pounds of body on top of that. Real scary there. So we'll keep an eye on that, hopefully get an update. I haven't looked around to find any updates yet, but I'm sure, Fightful or somebody will have updates on that as soon as possible. And best wishes to Humberto Carrillo. Hopefully that is not a serious injury because it sure as hell looked bad. So thoughts are with him tonight, and best of luck there. I don't know what was going on with this Lucha House Party promo. So Lucha House Party promo, of course, Kalisto's no longer with the company, so you've got Metalik and Dorado there, and they basically just decide to tell us all that they're the most Lucha-lit tag team around. Noted. They're the most lit Lucha team, guys. Make sure you remember that. After that, we get another vignette for Eva Marie. We actually got 2 of these tonight. Now, we got the first one last week, which made big headlines and got a lot of people talking on social media about Eva Marie coming back. Gave my thoughts on that as well. I really don't care about her at all. It cracks me up how just dead set WWE is on having this gimmick. This is like the 4th fucking time. Emelina and Lana and Eva Marie, and I think there's been one more that they did this weird shit with or whatever. And didn't they even do, somebody reminded me of this on the podcast, didn't they do like an Evolution? Wasn't there like an Evolution? And now there's an Evolution? My God, was there a Lana-lution? So it's the same shit. And she, even in the vignette, it almost seemed like she was being somewhat more humble. It takes 99 bad pictures to find that great one or whatever. And, it doesn't all come easy and, and all of that. And I don't know what the fuck any of this shit means, but this glamorous model evening gown wearing type of character that they seem so goddamn desperate to shove up our asses is in the form of Eva Marie here. Still no word on when she's going to debut. It keeps saying coming soon. We'll see. I don't know really what they have planned for her. She's going to be a heat magnet. I know that, which is fine. But maybe she'll come back and completely surprise us and have a different attitude. I'm not sure. And like I said, they ran two promos for her. We talked about last week how, we kind of shot down the opinions of some people who kind of got the idea because this happened. Bringing her in happened so closely with all those releases. It gave, the more angrier fans, people who don't maybe think things through all the way, a chance to say, boy, you fired all those women so you could bring in Eva Marie. Eva Marie, I think, was coming in regardless of all those people were getting released or not. They couldn't have released one single person 3 or 4 weeks ago, and Eva Marie would still be there. We heard rumors of her coming back all the way since 2020. This is not surprising, and it's just a timing of it. I don't think it means that WWE fired them and gave all of those women, gave Mickie James and Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, gave all their money to Eva Marie. That's not what happened. But it does suck because I'd much rather see those women in the company than Eva Marie. So I will agree with the fans on that. Less Eva Marie, more people that you've released. But she's back. She'll be back. We got to deal with her. And let's see how she does. Let's get her in the ring, bump her around a little bit. Luckily, she is on the same show as Charlotte. So how far can she really go? And for the first time ever, Charlotte's, the WWE Charlotte agenda might play into the fans' favor here if it, stops Eva Marie from excelling because they don't seem to like her. We then get the one-on-one match that we knew we would get this week between Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. They weren't going to do this on a pay-per-view. They were just going to hash this out now. Cedric, very intense during this thing, doing a lot of talking. He's got a kind of a funny voice. He seems like he really, when he screams, I don't like it. He just doesn't have very much presence to his voice. But he's very angry, trying to talk shit to Shelton Benjamin during this whole match, which was funny. But Shelton Benjamin is a veteran, and he's not to be messed with, and he proved that here against Cedric. Hits him with a T-bone suplex for the win. So Shelton picked up the initial victory here, which I think was the right call. Cedric will win this blow-off whenever it is. They might throw this shit on a kickoff backlash. They could even throw it on the pay-per-view for S&Gs, but I think they'll probably just do another match on Raw, probably next week. So look for Shelton Benjamin against Cedric Alexander next week with Cedric getting the win. But they will wrestle again. Cedric will get the win. That's an absolute certainty. After that, we get that Asuka and Rhea Ripley match that was set up backstage earlier on. During the match, Charlotte shows up. Of course, her music has to play. Music always has to play, right? And she's like, oh, just chill out, ladies. I'm just here to watch. And she goes and sits down on commentary. We go to commercial. We come back. Match continues. A lot of distractions from Charlotte. A lot of eye contact with Asuka and her. And Rhea Ripley's kind of taking exception to just Charlotte being out there in general. Rhea hits the Riptide on Asuka for the win after all of that nonsense with Charlotte. So, it wasn't much to set up their Backlash match. I still am not totally sure how it's going to go at Backlash, but I think Rhea Ripley needs to retain. I don't see how you put the title on her at WrestleMania just to have her drop it the next month to Charlotte. Like I said, I would love for Alexa Bliss to make her presence known in this match and target somebody that will allow Rhea Ripley to retain the title. And I would love to see Alexa target Charlotte. That would be great. I could see her targeting any of them, but when she came out in the beginning of that 6-woman match at the beginning of the show and said she was eyeballing one of those women, that limits it. And Asuka and Charlotte were 2 of those women. So we'll see if Alexa Bliss plays a role in the title match at all. And I'm thinking that maybe Alexa costs somebody the match. She then feuds with that person, beats that person, and then gets a title shot at SummerSlam. I wouldn't be surprised if Alexa Bliss gets a title shot at SummerSlam, but that's a lot of ifs. We still have Money in the Bank. We still have so much stuff to worry about and think about before we even get to that. But I feel like the way this gimmick is and this character with Alexa Bliss could lead to her winning the title. But unlike The Fiend, I don't want them to rush it. The Fiend, the minute he got there, he was like, in title matches and stuff. So build this up with a little bit with Alexa. Let her fuck with a couple people first, beat someone, and then get a title shot at a big pay-per-view and win. Maybe with the help from The Fiend. Who knows? Have some fun out there, man. Think it through. Do some good stuff. Hey, Nick Musser. Good to see you, man. I had to refresh my chat there. I was way behind. Holy shit. I will knock out those super chats that I owe you guys in just a minute. Oh, thank you. I'm seeing you guys answering some of what I asked earlier. Malcolm Bivens, it was. I love him. He's the best. Get that guy on the main roster. Bivens? I like him a lot. Yeah, it was a sunset flip. And I started thinking in my head, I'm like, wait, how did that happen? Yeah, and he just landed on his tailbone with Sheamus, all of Sheamus's weight coming down on him. Yeah, that was gnarly, man. If anybody has or sees any update about Humberto Carrillo, please throw it in the chat here, because I really hope he's all right, man, and that is not that wasn't too serious. After the Asuka and Rhea Ripley match, we have John Morrison taking on Damian Priest. This, of course, is the match set up earlier on. The winner of this match picks the stip for Miz and Priest at Backlash. Still a lot of that teasing of Morrison and Miz, maybe splitting up at some point. Miz is out there in Morrison's corner, very animated during the whole thing. Lots of interference by the Miz. Every time Priest has got kind of Morrison on the ropes, Miz comes up there to try, jumps up on the apron or in the ring or does something to try to fuck things up. In the end, doesn't matter. Damian Priest hit the lights on Morrison for the win. And then after commercial, we come back to see Priest and Adam Pearce backstage, and Priest says that he wants a lumberjack match at Backlash. So, lumberjack match. Part of me thinks that, excuse me, in a lumberjack match, they've set themselves up here for The Miz to maybe get his win back. I think you can beat Priest without killing his momentum. If you do something crazy in a lumberjack match where maybe Miz has got some people on payroll, maybe we see a return or some sort of an interference where Priest gets beat down and Miz has a whole lot of help, but he does win because Priest has owned these guys. He's beat them in every match on TV. Of course, they won at WrestleMania, and he's just had their number. You feel like you got to throw Miz and Morrison a little bit of a bone at the end of it for all the work they did to get those guys over earlier. So maybe in a lumberjack match scenario, a bunch of people can gang up on Damian Priest in the name of helping out the Miz, and Miz picks up the win somehow and can brag about that and be a doofus. Or it can be the final straw. Miz will lose. Morrison's going to be one of these lumberjacks. Priest even told Adam Pearce that he wants Raw and SmackDown guys there as well. So, that could play a role. But if you do have, let's say, Morrison fucking up for the last time, allowing Priest to hit the lights on the Miz and win, maybe that's just enough to push Miz over the edge and he beats the hell out of Drip. That would be sad. But we'll see. I think there's actually a chance that maybe Priest could lose. And I think you could do it in a way in that match to where, oh, good micro, you don't want to do that. You want to make him lose or whatever, but you can do it. It'll be fine. It's fine. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Main event time now. You knew we weren't going to get any clean finish out of this. We get Bobby. My notes are hilarious here. I literally have written down Bobby Lashley versus Bobby Lashley. Tells you how much I pay attention. But no, it's Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. And, of course, I think we got McIntyre and Strowman last week or something. What the hell we get? So, of course, we got the big triple threat next week, at Backlash. This is going to be your main event here. And I knew with Braun Strowman being approached earlier on that we were going to get some sort of interference here, and definitely an appearance by Braun Strowman. But I also thought, and props to WWE, for once I'm actually okay with a DQ finish, because I'm like, you know what, man? If there's ever a time, Lashley, they've done a really good job protecting him. 6 to 7 months prior to him winning the title, he's been virtually unbeatable on Monday Night Raw. And we know how WWE loves to beat champions. They love to beat champions. Luckily, they didn't. They even did it here technically tonight with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. But it seems to be their thing. But they haven't really done that with Lashley, and I don't want them to. But if there was ever a time to do it, this might have been the night to do it, because at least he would go down to somebody like McIntyre. He would probably have help from Strowman. And on top of that, it would almost, if you do like pay-per-view math, it would, with Lashley dropping a match here on Raw, it would almost ensure, at least in my mind, that he'd retain the title at Backlash. So I'm like, man, I don't want him to get beat. I do not want WWE to do that, but I could see them doing it here. And it would give Drew a victory over Lashley, because I'm assuming and hoping that Sunday, Lashley walks out with the title. And I'm also hoping Sunday, Lashley has different challengers after Backlash. No more Drew, no more Strowman. They need to do something else. Maybe they can do shit with each other. And Lashley can have a whole, new challenger. Maybe we see Drew McIntyre rekindle something with Sheamus. I don't know. But I think after Backlash, Lashley should remain champion into SummerSlam and work with somebody else besides these two guys. So how do you get out of that? How do you have Lashley win? Just pin Braun Strowman? Do we see a return of some kind? Do we see Keith Lee come back? Still waiting for him to return somewhere, sometime. But this, with this being a triple threat, and with Strowman doing what he would do here in the match, kind of makes you think that he's going to be the one taking the pin here. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Lashley and Drew was okay. It was what it was. Braun Strowman does, in fact, interfere, comes down the ring, attacks Drew McIntyre immediately, referee calls for the bell, so McIntyre gets the win, I assume, over Lashley via DQ. And then Braun beats the hell out of McIntyre. Lashley seems happy about that and goes to kind of give Braun a hug or a handshake or something, and then Braun attacks Lashley, beats the hell out of him, gets him on the outside of the ring, drives him through the barricade, and then gets back in the ring and power slams Drew McIntyre and stands tall as the show goes off the air. So that guarantees, at least for me, what I didn't want to see happen. I didn't think would anyway. Braun Strowman will not be winning the WWE title on Sunday, which I didn't think he would, but this kind of ensured it here. And now with him getting this last laugh the way he did, it really makes me feel like he's going to be the one to take the pin. So I think what they're going to do here is have Lashley retain the title with Drew remaining strong and Strowman being the bitch of the threesome again. We'll see. Although they could surprise us. Maybe Strowman could take the title and then you do a rematch and Lashley wins it back. But, Lashley's been on quite a roll. And when they had an opportunity here to do one of those beat the champion situations on TV, they didn't do it. And I would just rather see Lashley be who he is now into SummerSlam. That would just set up a really big money match with someone. And that's what I think they should do. So we're probably not going to see any title switches on Backlash, at least not world title switches. I'm assuming Lashley is going to retain, although we don't know for sure. And then Roman against Cesaro. I love Cesaro. Very happy he's getting this match at Backlash, but I don't see him winning the title. I think it's going to be Roman Reigns all the way. And I'm hoping it's going to be Bobby Lashley over McIntyre and Strowman. And I'm hoping they can move on, and all three of them can go on and do meaningful stuff afterwards, and then we just got to start thinking about Money in the Bank and shit like that. So I just want to get on the other side of Backlash with really nobody dropping their belts. Rhea Ripley, I don't want to see her lose. I don't want to see Bianca Belair lose. That might not be realistic. The 4 world titles are all on the line on Sunday. None of them are changing hands. That's fine with me, but is that something that WWE usually does? Of those 4 title matches, which match do you think is the most likely to have a title switch? Bianca and Bayley? No, I don't see it. Possibly Rhea and Charlotte and Asuka. Any match with Charlotte in a title, any title match involving Charlotte, I should say, there's always a chance she's going to win. But I don't know. I don't want to see. There is the one point we didn't talk about here. When we talk about Strowman taking the pin, it could be Drew pinning him. That is very possible. So if you want to take the belt off of Lashley, you can do that here as well by keeping him strong too. So I think Strowman taking the pin is very likely. But then Drew winning the belt back again with that, then what? Then you're looking at another match with Bobby Lashley, because that's not going to fly, especially with MVP as his mouthpiece. If Drew pins Strowman, wins the WWE title, you think MVP is just going to let that shit slide and he's not going to kick the fucking door down in Adam Pearce's dressing room on Monday and be like, you saw what happened last night? That's horse shit. We're getting our rematch. We're getting it tonight. He'll convince Pearce to do that. So then you're just looking at Lashley and Drew again. And now Drew's like, what, a 4-time champion or whatever the fuck? So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I just want Lashley to hold on to the title. Just give him a run. Just give him a run. SummerSlam, him and Roman, I think, are both, especially now that this pay-per-view is looking like it's going to be a real big one with fans and kind of kicking off officially life getting back to normal. Talk of WWE going on tour right after SummerSlam. We got the date set for August 22nd. No word on the location yet, but if it does turn out to be a Vegas or some big outdoor venue and it's a big summer party, you could have 2 monumental marquee matches if you do a Roman and Brock or a Lashley and Brock or something like that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let me know. We'll go. I got the Backlash card pulled up here. We'll run through it here in just a second. No one hit the running power slam like Davey Boy Smith. Yeah, he had a certain way of doing it. His was so short. He would do this quick little short steps, and he would only go about halfway across the ring before hitting the guy with it. So they were different. I'm trying to think who the best overall power slam was. Yeah, rumor Vegas is my pick, because if it's in Vegas, there's a chance I could be there. I could drive to that. Or I could fly for like $99. There's always like cheap ass flights out of San Diego to Vegas. But yeah, if it is in Vegas, I think I can make that work. Probably. I do have a summer trip planned, so we'll see. Trey, what's going on, man? SmackDown should have had its own branded pay-per-view this year. What do you think, Greg? Well, they've tried that, though. You know, we used to have separate pay-per-views, and then they decided to. I'm okay with all pay-per-views being co-branded, because I think if you were to do, and unless you just do one specific one per year, but if you do a bunch for each brand, then, you know, it's hard. You know, especially with Raw being 3 hours, if you do a Raw only pay-per-view, all it's going to be is Raw matches we just see on Raw all the time. So I think, you know, mixing it up is just probably best, just for where the rosters are and the way the product is at the moment. It was tough for them to get away with that back in the day. It'd be even harder now. You love WWE forever. Well, I think deep down we all do, even though we hate it. JJ Leg, thanks, man. Appreciate the $5. Cena has been teasing a return. There you go. Cena would be perfect to be at SummerSlam. He could be in a world title match at SummerSlam, and that would be it. If those were your four guys, if it was Brock, Roman, Cena, and Lashley, holy shit. I mean, technically, too, when you think about it, Lashley owes Cena one. Lashley owes Cena one for a pay-per-view loss right after the Benoit tragedy, right? 07 Great American Bash. Lashley was only there about a year. He just came off that big WrestleMania head-shaving deal with Vince, and they gave him a title match against Cena, and Cena beat him, beat the new up-and-comer. Cena coming back now to challenge Lashley. They could draw back to that, because to the best of my knowledge, that's the only time they've ever worked together, right? I mean, how many matches has Cena and Lashley had? So now that could be a great way to get Lashley over even more and have a victory over Cena at a pay-per-view under his belt. I still think Cena's got to come back and win a title at some point to surpass Ric Flair, but you put him in the ring with Lashley and do that rematch and give Lashley that win back 14 years later would be interesting. 14 years in between title matches between these two on pay-per-view. That's pretty incredible. So I'd be into that a lot. I'd love it, and I really want to see Roman and Brock. Every time I bring that up, somebody's like, Roman and Brock again? Yeah, Roman and Brock again. You're goddamn right. It's different now. It ain't the same. Yeah, Bianca hasn't been defending the title on SmackDown since WrestleMania. It's not really that crazy. Roman, up until that match with Daniel Bryan, hasn't defended the title at all on SmackDown. That's not that rare. Plus, I don't want to see title matches on SmackDown all the time. You know, save that shit for pay-per-views. Yeah, and Lashley was gone shortly after that. I completely forgot they were tag team partners at 06. I don't even remember who the hell they faced. But yeah, he was kind of gone shortly after that. But they did give him a... And I remember at that time I really liked Lashley, but I didn't think he was ready. I remember in that match with Cena, I was rooting for Cena. And by then, Cena already had a ton of heat. You weren't allowed to root for Cena. It's against the rules. But I rooted for him because I don't play by these stupid rules. And now, looking back, if that match were to happen now, it would be completely reversed. I'd be rooting 1,000,000% behind Bobby Lashley. Behind Bob. Zane G, appreciate the $5 from you, man. Would it hurt for SummerSlam to do 2 nights like WrestleMania? Or would it hurt WWE business-wise? I wouldn't do SummerSlam 2 nights. I'd save that for WrestleMania. 2-night events are going to be debatable anyway, so if you are going to do it, it should really be for your biggest show. Not if you start doing that, then what are you going to do? A 2-night Rumble and everything else? Unless you mean just for this particular SummerSlam, do it 2 nights, since it's kind of, similar to WrestleMania in terms of, having fans back for the first time, maybe. But for SummerSlam, 1 night. One good, solid 4-hour show, 5-hour show. 4-hour show with an hour kickoff, something like that would be cool with me. Yeah, I'd keep it 1 night for sure. Chris Ludecki, good to see you, man. Welcome back. Thanks for the $5 from you. When Cena beat Lashley in 07, no one was saying Lashley was buried afterwards. No, yeah, they weren't, but they were definitely upset about it, I think. Because I kind of remember that was when I first started really noticing that the fans were real irrational when it came to Cena. Because by then I was starting to say, you know what, maybe he ain't so bad. I didn't like Cena in 05. I thought the rapping thing was lame. He seemed like Marky Mark to me. I never thought it was really that good. I know his raps and his rhymes were sometimes funny, but I prefer like rock concerts over, the rap stuff. And they were mostly just crude. That's all it was. Just sexual innuendos and all that stuff. So I never was really that much of a fan of Cena until he started getting the hate from the fans. Because once I start hearing the fans being so crazy about something, I'm like, something's got to be wrong there. There's a wire loose in their head. He can't be that bad. So then I start watching Cena, trying to look at him more closely, trying to appreciate him better, and then realize, and then ever since like 2007, I had Cena's back. I'm like, nope, I'm not getting on this bandwagon because I can see where it's going, and I want to be better than that. Maka International, Cena doesn't put people over. That is completely 1,000,000% incorrect. Incorrect statement. Incorrect statement. He put everybody over. What the fuck are you talking about? Put Roman over? Put AJ over? He's put everybody over. What are you talking about? That's the type of shit that I'm talking about. Is the fans will say something that is clearly not true and provably untrue, yet believe it anyway. You can't argue with someone like that. Because the cool thing about facts is that they're true whether you believe them or not. So you can say that Cena doesn't put people over, but that's not true. So you can believe that all you want, but it's not true. Doesn't make it true. You can believe until you're blue in the face. Still wrong. I don't think Lashley is ready to beat Cena yet. We'll see how good he is until SummerSlam 2021. Yeah, well, maybe Trey by then. I think he is. I think Lashley is credible enough to do that. I'm thinking of it more of just like kind of a feather in his cap type of thing, but you also have to look at it as Lashley is 44. If you are going to burn a Cena match and you are going to have Cena put someone over, would it be better served putting someone younger over, someone that's going to maybe be here for 10 years? Lashley might not be here for 10 years. He's going to be 54 if he is. So would you bring Cena back to put somebody over? But would it be better for him to put over Karrion Kross? So I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that, but I think with SummerSlam, you got to at least consider Cena's name for the marquee value of whatever match you can have, whether it's for a title or whatever. And I've still said that before Cena officially never wrestles again, this man has to win the Universal title. WWE is not going to want Cena to retire and have that legacy of that Universal title never have John Cena's name attached to it. Of course they want that. So you could get Cena and Roman at SummerSlam. And Cena beats him? Oh, shit. That would be crazy. Because you got to think, when it comes to Roman, he's got 3 potential men that I think could legitimately challenge him for that tribal chief nonsense. You acknowledge me, I'm the greatest. Number 1, Brock can do that. Oh, shit. Almost unplugged my mic. Number 1, Brock can do that. Brock can come back and be like, acknowledge you? Bitch, I owned you. You acknowledge me, kind of thing. Boom, immediate conflict. The Rock, tribal chief, head of the table. Bitch, I'm the family member with billions of dollars. I'm the, top movie star in the world. I'm a household name. People know who I am when they slide out of the womb. They already know who Dwayne The Rock Johnson is. I'm the head of the table, bitch. And then you also have John Cena, who's been, the most dominant star WWE's had since Austin, Rock, Hogan, and guys like that. He's on that list in terms of just sheer dominance, the length of his title runs, how long he stayed unbeatable, how long he stayed on top. He's done that longer than Roman Reigns as well. So Cena could also be a guy that says, hey, I got every minute, I got 3 times the accolades you do. So I'm still, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still the man. He could do the thing like, until you beat me, you're not the man, but Cena has put Roman over at least once. I know they worked a Night of Champions a couple years ago. They might have worked another time too. I can't remember, but that match has already been done. Going back to that, I'm not sure, but going back to it to maybe have Cena win the title and then Roman taking it back from him, which could be a fun little program there, and it would finally put Cena's name on the Universal title lineage. I'd be open to that. I can already hear the fans bitching about that, but I wouldn't. I'd be cool with it. Whatever you do at SummerSlam, do something awesome, because it sounds like the show is shaping up to be pretty awesome. No kidding. Deshaun, Night of Champions 2007, Cena defeated Lashley, Orton, King Booker, Mick Foley in a 5-pack challenge for the WWE title. Interesting. Was that the end of King Booker? Wasn't he on his way out? Wasn't he heading over to TNA by that point? What year was his SummerSlam match with Triple H? I feel like that was 07 too. Off Leather Wings, appreciate the $5. 2000s nostalgia is the new wave, and WWF failed to capitalize on it with SmackDown. Save the fist for a crowd, but at least use 2005 graphics and music. I wanted the 99 graphics and music. Nothing beats that. I want the oval screen and the old intro there. We did the review of SmackDown on Friday. You should check that out, Off Leather Wings. I talked about my opinions on that and how WWE, when they were booking this thing or advertising this, I should say, as a throwback SmackDown, all it was like a bunch of throwback components on SmackDown. You know, like with the Lord Alfred Hayes stuff and the primetime wrestling theme and Pat McAfee dressed like Vince and Michael Cole dressed like 1999 Michael Cole in the jeans. And it was just like just all this nostalgia just sprayed all over the show instead of giving us like an actual throwback show. So yeah, it was weird. It was a gimmick that was totally unnecessary and, you know, kind of stupid at the end of the day and a letdown, a lot of people would say for the most part, but they were limited. As soon as they announced this SmackDown throwback, I was like, well, how can they do that? How can they do that in the Thunderdome? They can't just install the old fist set and plug that into this, you know, futuristic fucking Thunderdome shit they got going on here. You know, it would take a massive, like, kind of overhaul of their set. That's a lot of trouble to go through for one episode of SmackDown that's probably going to be meaningless in the long run anyway. So I didn't think that they were really going to go that far with it. But, you know, then when they just did the digital stuff, the digitized fist on the show and everything, it just looked ridiculous. So, yeah, definitely a letdown. I think most people agree that it was a letdown. Off topic, but I'm not feeling Bianca's title reign yet. It feels like they had her win the title and then say, okay, we'll put the belt on her now. Now what? A lot of people have that problem. You know, Bianca's title win, her match with Sasha Banks was incredible at WrestleMania. The moment for her, couldn't have asked for anything better for Bianca Belair. Went as absolutely perfect as it could have been, literally at WrestleMania. But then after that, they do this a lot with champions when this happens. Then it's like, okay, now what do we do? Just, you know, she's going to feud with Bayley first. She'll probably beat Bayley. And hopefully that match will be good, but a lot of the stuff on TV is just meh, you know. And yeah, I'm feeling it just because I really, really like Bianca, and I think that she's talented enough to where the weaknesses in WWE's, you know, booking or storytelling or something, hopefully will not overshadow what she can do, and we'll see. She'll put on a good match with Bayley. You know, they'll have a good one. Mike McGee. Thoughts on Brian Pillman, Dark Side of the Ring. I did a full, you know, I've even thought about clipping that out. The entire review of the show is inside of Friday's podcast that we did on Friday after SmackDown. I spoke for about maybe 20, 25 minutes about this and gave my full thoughts on Pillman and all of my opinions. So Mike, please check that out. It's, you know, one of the most recent videos on my channel. I should crop that out and update it or upload it as like a mic drop or something. Just to maybe get that circulating a little bit more, because like I said, Friday's episode was a pretty poor viewing performance for me. So I want more people to be able to hear my thoughts on Dark Side of the Ring. So maybe I'll do that this week, crop it out and upload it. Boy, man, I got to tell you, I've got a doozy of a video in the works. I start filming it a week from tomorrow, I think. But I'll give you more details as we go. We're probably about 3 weeks out from it being uploaded, but it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be similar to a video I did a year ago for my 10-year anniversary, but oh, it's going to be so much better. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. We need to do something different on the channel, need to shake things up, and I need to do some things around here, and I'm going to document the whole thing. So keep a lookout for that sometime late May, possibly early June, but I think I'll get it done this month. I should have, hopefully like 2 weeks, but I'm thinking 3 is more realistic for just the sheer amount of filming and editing that I have to do. But it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it, so keep a lookout. Who would win, Prime Big Show or Prime Andre? Prime Andre. Oh, it was No Mercy. Is that what Roman and Cena was? No Mercy 2017? I don't know why I thought it was Night of Champions. I had the right time of year, though. I guess those pay-per-views are, what, like a month apart? Was No Mercy 2017? Is that the same show as the Miz Ziggler IC retirement match thing? That had a heck of a little feud there back then. I think that was the same one. Yeah, John Cena getting a win over Roman Reigns before he retires would be interesting, but time's running out, man. It's sooner or later, it's not going to be realistic for him to beat him. And Roman can create hell of a legacy for himself. If we can get the fucking Rock in the ring for WrestleMania 39 here in LA, and you can put those two together, and Rock can, put his cousin over in his last official match, and you tie that in with, everybody else Roman is beaten. Crazy. I'd be into it. I don't know, Jose. Undertaker being United States champion before retiring, I don't think so. With Undertaker, he's one guy that doesn't need every title. It's fine. There's some titles I can't even imagine him holding. He didn't hold the Intercontinental title, did he? Either. I couldn't even imagine him back in the 90s with that title around his waist. Just wouldn't have fit. Wouldn't have looked right. John Cena, famously, right, has never held the Intercontinental title either, which is pretty crazy. You got AJ Styles, a guy that became a Grand Slam champion inside of 4 years. And then you have Cena, who's been there for so long, and he's never done it. That's incredible. Yeah, Kevin, you're probably right about Bray Wyatt. I don't know what he's going to probably turn up again after Backlash. He's probably not on TV to avoid overshadowing each other. Well, I mean, they're the ones that wanted to do the spinoff, so they need to be prepared to be able to balance these two out and have them both featured on shows together. Or I guess Bray Wyatt, is he turning up on SmackDown now? Where the hell is he? When was the last time? Wasn't he on SmackDown? So maybe they're going to separate him. I don't know what's going on, but I would also assume that they're going to come back together as well, because I still don't think we really truly understand what the hell was going on at WrestleMania with Alexa Bliss. AJ looks like the Mrs. Dad with that goatee. I guess I didn't notice that, Mike. Thanks for the $2. I thought AJ, he mentioned the goatee tonight, said it makes him more aerodynamic. It made me think of Pineapple Express when Danny McBride, he's like shaves his armpits. He's like, it makes me more aerodynamic when I fight. AJ should have said that. Yeah, Maka, the A&E doc on Shawn looked interesting. The A&E docs are not giving us anything we didn't already know, but they're still very well put together, and kind of an updated version of Shawn Michaels is going to be good. I will be excited to see that, but he's not going to say anything on that documentary that I wasn't already aware of. The Booker one, I think, is out. I'm going to watch that tonight. We got a lot of wrestling to watch tonight. I'm going to check out the Booker T biography. There's probably another WWE Treasure show on as well. And some of you mentioned that the Damian Priest Chronicle on Peacock is really, really good. So I'm going to check that out tonight as well. So I got some wrestling on tap this evening. Thanks for $5 more from you, Zane G. When it comes to Reigns having the title, defending the title within 30 days is out the door. Yeah, that's always been a flimsy rule. Has never really applied. As a matter of fact, they violated that hard when Daniel Bryan won the title, right, at WrestleMania 30. Then he got hurt kind of right after. They kind of kept him out, and then he had to forfeit the title. I know there's been plenty of other situations where the champ has gone longer than 30 days without defending it. But I like Roman not defending the title on SmackDown. He's almost like he's a balance. He's a balance between a full-time star and what Brock does. Brock is just never around, but Roman is only going to wrestle on major, major shows. So that match they did a couple weeks ago on SmackDown with Daniel Bryan, that was billed as a major thing. Since Roman has come back at SummerSlam, I think he's only been in 2 in-ring matches on SmackDown. 2. Unless I'm wrong about that. I think there was a tag match and then this one. Other than that, he doesn't wrestle on SmackDown, and that's pretty awesome. So I kind of like that they're keeping his championship reign and his matches bigger deals, attractions, and that's good. And then when they go back on the road, he can wrestle, every night and stuff. But in terms of being on TV, I like Roman in pay-per-view title matches only. Oh, did they really declare that obsolete? Is that when Vince and the McMahons and Triple H were out there saying they're going to listen to the fans? Was that same speech that they decided that I know the rematch clause was done away with, but I wasn't aware of the 30-day thing. That's something I almost think for kayfabe they should keep, because if they don't have that rule, then the champ's just going to be like, fuck it, I'm never going to defend the belt. You can't beat me for it if I don't defend it. Batista coming back and wrestled Brock. They missed their window on that. I can't believe they never got that done. They had a chance. There was a time during Batista's comeback in 2014 where they were in the ring together. It was a segment on Raw ahead of WrestleMania where Batista and Brock and Orton, a whole bunch of people were in the ring, but the two of them were there. And I'm like, man, that's the match. Because I think Batista, one of the reasons why I love Batista now, I think he's awesome. I have so much respect for Dave Batista. But back in the day in 2004 and 2005 when he won the title, I wasn't into him because Brock had left and I felt like he was Brock's replacement. But he was not even close to as talented. Wasn't nearly as good in the ring. I didn't think he was as strong. Definitely wasn't as agile. Couldn't move as well. I didn't think Batista was very good in the ring, but that was because I was comparing him to Brock Lesnar. If I had never seen Brock Lesnar in my life ever, I would have thought Batista was just fine. But it felt like he was the one being put in the void that Brock left, and he wasn't measuring up, in my opinion. Now, as years went on, I became to appreciate Batista more. His feud with The Undertaker and a couple of other matches he would have. I'm like, okay, he's a lot like Hogan in a lot of ways to where when he wants to turn it on, he can turn it on. When Hogan decides to have a good match, he can pull one out of his yellow ass. But Batista, he just didn't measure up to Brock to me. You know, Brock was just so gifted. You know, there was no beating him. So the fact that they used Batista as a replacement of having another beast, another big, muscular badass on the roster, Batista was a Walmart Brock to me, and it took me a couple of years to appreciate Batista. Now he's one of my favorite people on the planet, but 16 years ago, I had a different opinion of him. So we never got that match. There was a chance they could have done it in 2014. But Blue Tista would be taken off right after the Evolution feud and all that stuff. So, you think Roman Reigns will be Universal Champion for over 11 years? That'd be a hell of a run. Somebody's got to beat Bruno's record. Maybe Roman is the one to do it. Wow, that's interesting. I don't even remember them saying that about the 30-day. Probably because I like to forget that entire promo ever happened because it sucked. It sucked bad. Oh, yeah, Dylan. Yeah, well, Hogan is not a great wrestler. No, I've never said that, but he can surprise you every now and then. WrestleMania 6 was really good. When he went to Japan and wrestled over there, he could have good matches over there. I don't know what it was, just the style and shit. It just depended. It also depended on who he was wrestling. You can't expect him to have a good match against Andre at WrestleMania 3 because what the hell can Andre do? Yeah, Hogan's one of those funny cases where every now and then he busts out a drop toe hold or, an arm bar or something. Where the fuck did that come from? Lesnar and Batista had a confrontation in the 2003 Rumble. Okay. I kind of remember that, but that was prior to Batista being Batista. He was way young and way green at that point. Still in Evolution, I guess, right? But not quite, it would take him 2 years to get to the top. Similar stuff about Lashley in 06, calling him Black Lesnar. And Lashley, Lashley was more capable than Batista in my mind, just because he had that legit, MMA background, and he was just a tough, soldier, and physically, and Batista looked great physically too. But Lashley just had this, thickness to him, and he had a little bit more agility. So if I'm ranking them, it's Brock, Lashley, Batista, but Batista's on the bottom. Lashley, to me, would have been a more suitable replacement for Brock than Batista was. It just took me a while to warm up to him. I didn't even enjoy WrestleMania 21 that much. I loved a couple matches on it, but, it was the launching of Cena and Batista. And in those days, like I said, Cena took me a year or two. When everybody loved Cena, I didn't like him. When everybody hated Cena, I did. So it took me a couple years to even like Cena. So WrestleMania 21, I didn't have a whole lot of love for either guy. I didn't like JBL, so I didn't give a shit that he lost the title, but I wasn't that big on Cena. I didn't care about him much. Missed Rock, missed Austin, missed the old days. Didn't like this new breed at all. And it took me a while to kind of get used to him and accept him and bring him into my wrestling heart, so to speak. But eventually they got in. I don't know if Brock would have been booed out of every arena after in 2004. I think the only reason he was being booed is because he left or he was leaving to go play football. If he wasn't going to do that, the fans would have had no reason to boo him for any other reason than the heelish shit he was doing on TV. All right, Zane G, take care. Thanks for being here tonight, man. Peace out. I'm going to be right behind you. I'm not going to be going for very much longer here tonight, but I like answering questions in the chat. That can be fun. I got a lot of stuff going on this week, so I'm not totally... The plan right now, I'm going to be up here Saturday for the Winged Eagle podcast. I'm assuming we're going to tie in WrestleMania Backlash predictions to that. There is a chance, though, I might throw you guys a curveball, give you predictions a little bit early. Not sure yet, but as of right now, just plan on me being here for Saturday. And then Sunday after the pay-per-view, we'll be doing the review. A week from tonight, we'll be back up here for the Raw review, and then after that, I'm going to start working on a real special episode for you coming at the end of the month. So, big week ahead of us here. Deshaun, I don't see Cena winning the Universal title because he seems like the type of guy, if he has the company top belt, he wants to be there weekly. Rumors that Cena has 3 new movie projects coming up. Exactly. Anything, this is all contingent upon WWE and him being able to work something out for him to come in. You're right. Taking the top belt in the company you would think theoretically would require him to be there a little more. Goldberg had that title, though, and so did Brock, and they were never fucking there. And I think Cena would be there more than them. So this would all have to line up with breaks in movies. And, because at some point he's going to, Rock took a break and came back and did all that shit. He was at he wrestled Royal Rumble. Then he had the rematch at the February pay-per-view. Then he worked WrestleMania. He was on Raw a lot. It can be done. And I think if Cena can give WWE 3 months of his time, 3 months, it's all you need, a quarter of a year, to come in, win the title, beat somebody, program, drop it, and leave. It would satisfy a lot. It would give WWE, their history with Cena, breaking Ric Flair's record or whatever, and Cena would win a title he's never won, and it would be create buzz and sell tickets to pay-per-views and shit like that, depending on what time he came in. I think it would just have to line up. So it might be a year away. Cena might not win that Universal title for 2 years. He might have to film a bunch of movies first, come in at the end and do it. But I mean, if Edge can be sitting at home for 11 years and then come back, Cena can work extremely part-time for 5 and come back too. He'll be back. He will be back. But probably never again to be full-time. See, it's so funny how that all comes full circle, because we remember back at WrestleMania 28, in that feud with Rock and Cena, and how Cena did those interviews, and he really truly felt that, because back then he was WWE for life, and he took exception to the Rock saying, "Oh, I'm always going to be in wrestling," and then he left and said goodbye for 8 years. Cena is now kind of seeing things from Rock's perspective, and he's even gone on record to say, "I was wrong. I was wrong about that opinion," to criticize The Rock for that, because now I'm doing it. So he's literally doing the exact same thing The Rock did. Exact same thing. The same thing he criticized is what he's doing now. And what's cool about Cena is he acknowledges that, understands it, say, yeah, I was wrong. So him coming back at some point is an absolute certainty. WWE's done too much for him, for him just to say, okay, see ya, never coming back. He'll be back. He'll be back, but probably never again. That's the one thing. We made it through it. I had to sit through so many years of doing this YouTube channel, just listening to this ridiculous, over-the-top John Cena hate from these just brain-dead fans. And the fact that we somehow survived that. And never again will these fans that hated him so much ever have to worry about him being on top, hogging spotlights, taking up time. He's going to come back and win a title. Guaranteed. He might even be in a big pay-per-view main event, but it's not going to be a spot hogging situation where he's going to come back and take away from the young talent. It's not going to be that. He's going to come back and he's going to do his thing, and he's going to be there, and he's probably going to do his fair share of giving back as well. So you're never going to have to worry about Super Cena winning 16 pay-per-view matches in a row, having a 12-month or a 13-month long title run. Any of that shit that we had to deal with before is never going to have to be dealt with again. And then when you think about the next guy that the wrestling fans transferred their heat onto, we've survived that too. Because now Roman is who he is, and now Roman's badass doing this tribal chief Paul Heyman, Universal Champion gimmick. I'm sure there's still fans that think he's a cancer and all that stuff, but a lot less than before. And now, the fact that we survived Roman and Cena and we came out the other side, these fans, you got to remember, they said these two guys would kill the business. WWE would go out of business because of John Cena winning matches. Did that happen? No. We got through it. We survived it. And now they're running out of people to transfer their anger onto. It's all on the shoulders of Charlotte Flair now. So that's her burden to deal with. But at some point, they need to find somebody else to hate because, like I said, they need food, water, and hate to survive. We'll see. I want R-Truth to be 89. I want an 89-year-old R-Truth on Raw winning the 24/7 title. Yeah, Sir Joseph, you're right. And one of my always issues with Cena that I tried my hardest, and the point I was laboring to make to the fans that just couldn't hear it, was the same type of thing. I would, even as much as I had Cena's back and defended him, I was never saying there were not instances to where I was like, he should not have won that match, or okay, enough's enough with this guy, or whatever. He went on an incredible winning streak, really similar to like Triple H's reign of terror, but from a babyface standpoint. So that and that Nexus stuff, I actually agreed with that. There were a couple of 07 matches there. I'm like, damn, this guy, is there anybody that can beat him? And then in 2010, the Nexus, I totally agreed with those criticisms. The difference is I'm not wishing Cena dead for it. I agree that if I'm in charge, I'm booking that match differently. Does it make me wish death upon Cena? No, because I'm a rational adult with my emotions in check, and I can manage those emotions, which most people can't. So that's what I always tried to argue with Cena. I'm like, I'm not saying WWE isn't a little bit overboard with the guy. I'm saying that he doesn't deserve this shit that's heaped on him, Yeah, and he was being booked a lot like a Warrior and Hogan. The closest thing to that, even Rock and Austin had their days and stuff, but Cena there was a span there where he literally seemed unbeatable. To the same, he felt like 86 Hogan. Cena's the first guy since 86 Hogan to feel like 86 Hogan. Even Rock and Austin weren't able to duplicate 86 Hogan. Even when Austin was launched at WrestleMania 14 in 98, he dropped the belt at King of the Ring. And then he won it back and then dropped it just a couple of months after that. He did not go on this long, unbeatable run where he's stunning and pinning everybody that steps in his way. Hogan was leg dropping and pinning everybody. Cena was FUing and F5ing, or what's it called? AAing people in every match and just beating them. Never ended with him. So I can understand, growing tired of Cena. What I can't understand though is saying he's ruining the business, doesn't know how to wrestle, can't cut a promo, is a cancer to wrestling, should be killed, that sort of thing. And that's what was out there amongst the children in the IWC, because that's what they are, children. Edge will be 64 and Roman will be 52. When? WrestleMania 100? I would love it. Our first 51-time 24/7 champion, R-Truth. I was hoping he would win the title 100 times. We haven't seen, where's the 24/7 been, by the way? Is Truth all right? He hasn't been on TV in a couple of weeks, right? I haven't seen him. Any word on him? Any R-Truth sighting? Whose turn is it to watch him? Did y'all let him out of your sight again? God damn it. Edge winning the Rumble was a waste of time. Edge winning the Rumble was awesome. What are you talking about? I liked it. I love Edge. We don't disparage Edge here on this channel. Never. Cena and Michael should have had a longer program. And that was kind of an interesting situation, too, because at WrestleMania 22, when it was Cena and Triple H, I think part of the reason why Cena had that successful run in 07, I think is partly because of the Triple H injury. Because it wouldn't have been like, Triple H dropped back-to-backers to Taker. I don't see him doing that at that time. When that WrestleMania 22 match happened, Triple H, the guy that was just a year or so removed from the Reign of Terror, when every single wrestling fan and their mother wanted to murder this guy, he's now in the ring with John Cena, the new Public Enemy, And if you remember, the fans that hated Triple H are now cheering him in that match. So I think the plan was the following year to do the rematch with Triple H going over and winning the title from John Cena, and the crowd would probably be pretty happy about that. But then he got hurt and got replaced with Shawn, and then instead of giving Shawn the title, they had Cena win. So I bet you at WrestleMania 23 in Detroit, had Triple H not got hurt, he would have beat Cena for the title. I bet you anything. Truth is partying with little Jimmy in Kuwait. Well, if there's one place I go to party, it's Kuwait. So I hope they have a good time there. Don't go for a walk at night. It's my only advice. Yeah, CM Punk's it. CM Punk is the only person you could ever recapture a surprise return. Probably the biggest one in recent history would have to be after WrestleMania 28 and 2012 when Brock came back, and that pop, that energy, holy shit. If CM Punk were to do something like that, no promo, don't announce he's signed, don't let it leak, just show up in AEW. Because the cool thing about CM Punk is he could go to AEW with the same music. Tony Khan will pay for a Cult of Personality, no problem. So no matter where he goes, he's going to have that music. So when it hits, you're going to know right away who it is. He's in a very good position if he ever wants to just bring in a big payday. But I don't know if AEW, CM Punk apparently really demands a pretty high price tag. So I don't know if that's something you want to do for morale in AEW this might rub some elite members the wrong way. Your Kennys, your Codys. If they bring in CM Punk and pay him 10 times more than what they're paying those guys to work 2 matches a year, might not be best for your morale. But man, the buzz that we create might be worth it. I feel like it would be a deal with Tony Khan gathering his inner circle of wrestling executives together, like Matt, Nick, Kenny, Cody, QT. Marco Stunt, what do y'all think about me bringing in CM Punk? Let's take it to a vote. Yes, man, Quentin, thank you for that reminder, because there is just an endless supply and stream of really cool wrestling-related TV and documentaries and shit right now. You have the Icons show on RVD is on Sunday, which I forgot about. So got a lot of good stuff coming, man. The RVD one's going to be good. And I think next Sunday is the RVD and also the Shawn A&E. So those are both Sunday after Backlash, I guess. Man. Yeah, Hardy's return in 2017. That was a huge pop too. That was a big one. Yeah, I know some of the contract news came out with AEW and TNT and stuff. A lot of people were comparing that to what NBC Universal and Fox and shit are paying WWE. But that's the breaks. You're right, Greg. SummerSlam 2010 was good because of the pipe bomb. SummerSlam 2011 was good because of the pipe bomb. SummerSlam 2010 was that Nexus shit with Daniel Bryan coming back and Cena beating him and all that stuff. My God. But, somebody reminded me earlier on that this June is going to be the 10-year anniversary of Money in the Bank 2011, John Cena versus CM Punk. So next month, we're going to be doing a watch-along of that show for sure, 100%. But anyway, as I peak at the time now, I've realized that I need to get out of here. I got to eat some food, and I got to watch a ton of wrestling tonight and get some shit done, and then prepare for another weekend of streaming coming up here in just a few days. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button on your way out the door, and have a good rest of your Monday night, and I'll catch you here at the end of the week for the Winged Eagle and Backlash predictions. There is a chance you might see me sometime midweek with a random video, depending on what happens this week in the world of wrestling news. So make sure you subscribe, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. And